The skies above Canada, vast, pristine and really, really expensive. On this week's programme, we find out how an aerial turf war may well make cross-Canada travel a little cheaper. We climb to the peak of what might well be Eastern Europe's most romantic mountain, and
the website that dishes the dirt on hidden airline and hotel fees, and the app that helps you get plugged into events and cool openings while you're abroad. That's Online Check-In later in the programme.
Hello and welcome to Fast Track. 30 minutes of travel news, escape and inspiration with me, Fiona Foster. Now, we start today's programme in the increasingly crowded skies over Canada. Plane tickets in that part of the world have been pretty steep for some time now. But change is in the air, which could mean good news for itchy-footed Canadians. We sent Brandy Yanchik to meet the winners and losers of North America's latest aerial turf war.
Canada is the second largest country in the world, a vast land with a huge capacity to attract tourists to its wild and beautiful spaces. But many Canadians will tell you tourists you have often seen more of their country than they have, because domestic flights have always been so expensive.
Now finally, it seems that could be changing. New budget airlines are taking flight across the country, but that's also bringing up new issues, especially in the smaller communities those budget airlines will serve.
Air Canada has been the country's dominant airline since it was set up in 1937. The national airline was privatized more than 25 years ago. It's no longer a nationally subsidized airline.
No one's forced to fly us. We're very pleased that we capture a very large share of the market, but this is a totally deregulated market and we have to compete for every single customer that chooses us.
17 years ago, WestJet flew into the picture, bringing more choice and lower prices. But many say that's still not enough.
We don't have enough competition. Our distances are great, but we also cannot get, I've never been to the east coast of Canada, but I've flown to South America, to, all over Asia, all over Europe, and flights are equivalent to flying across the country here.
When I just went to New Orleans in January, I saved about $900 driving to Seattle instead of flying out of YVR Airport in Vancouver, and it was a 2-hour drive. Parking was $135, and I saved $900, so I'll do it every time.
There's just not enough competition in Canada, and so we really get gouged for our airfares. There's no other way to put it. We are being gouged.
There is growing competition between the big two. In June, WestJet launched a new low-budget airline called Encore. It's focused on the country's smaller regional markets, traditionally the domain of Air Canada.
These are communities which, if they currently have air service, they probably only have one carrier, and they are paying exorbitant airfares right now because there is only one. So what we've said is we're going to come into those communities with discounts of up to 50% of what they're currently paying.
Prices have dropped by a couple $100 for a 4.5-hour flight from Toronto to Vancouver in summer, but it still costs around $800. That's left room for some small competitors to spread their wings, like Ontario's Porter Airlines.
Porter Airlines, which flies out of the Billy Bishop Toronto City Airport, has the other Canadian airlines watching them very closely. They have some ambitious plans to bring more competition into the market.
Those plans include more than doubling their fleet of 26 jets and aiming some of the new aircraft at passengers in Western Canada. The company is already creating fans on flights to remote places in Northern Ontario, like Timmins. A return flight to Toronto of just over an hour cost Peggy Claveau less than $300.
On average, airfare prior to Porter coming on board in Timmins was about $800 one return flight.
So it's kind of changed your life.
It has. It's great. I hope that Porter has plans on staying for a long time, actually.
Now people in remote communities across the rest of Canada are being targeted by the big airlines too. Last year that brought the air war between Air Canada and WestJet to the Yukon. and it caused great worries over collateral damage, especially in one small community, a community that has invested heavily in its own airline, Air North.
Because there are no roads into the community, the only way to move people in and out of the community is by air. And you have to consider everything from food to lumber to fuel. Everything has to be flown in.
The Vuntut-Gwitchin First Nation, based in a northern community in the Yukon called Old Crow, owns almost half the shares in Air North. That might sound risky, but it gives the community of 350 some control of a vital service. In fact, about 1 out of every 15 people in the Yukon holds shares in Air North. So it's not just First Nations who believe something important is at risk in the aerial turf war.
If we didn't have Air North, I'd be devastated, for one, because I don't like flying Air Canada, and so that would be my only other choice, because WestJet's only here in the summer.
I think lots of Yukoners would actually be willing to pay a little bit more just to patronize and to fly on Air North, because they're just like family, and you feel like family when you're flying with them.
As the war between the airline giants heats up, Air North is getting squeezed. Too many seats being offered, too many planes flying half empty, and unlike the other airlines, Air North can't offset losses in the north with more lucrative flights elsewhere.
I described the results last year as being a battle that we survived, not a war that we won, because, you know, here it is round 2, and we're back for some more.
Air North survives by matching every seat sale, aided by a reputation as the homegrown success story that can be held to account if prices get too high.
People would be phoning us at home. It's a small town. They know where we live.
For now, Air North's hope is that some kind of deal can be struck, that they can partner with WestJet or Air Canada to provide flights in the Yukon.
You know, they can still fly their flag in the north, but we need to convince them that at the end of the day, they're going to be better off to work with us than to try to step on us.
Air North claims it has reached out to Air Canada and WestJet to propose an air alliance, but so far there hasn't been an agreement. Until then, the Yukon Airline and other small independent Canadian airlines alike will have to count on the loyalty of locals to sustain their businesses until the air wars in these smaller markets are over.
Brandy Yanchik reporting from Canada. And if you have anything to add, do get in touch with us in all the usual ways. There's our website, www.bbc.com/fasttrack, and of course our email address, as ever, fasttrack@bbc.com. Now let's have a look at what else has been making news for travellers this week.
Governments around the world have issued travel warnings to their citizens as much of Egypt has been declared a no-go zone. Earlier this week, authorities in Cairo stormed a sit-in by supporters of the deposed President Mohamed Morsi. With the death toll rising, all but the most essential travel to most parts of Egypt has now been warned against.
I pray to God Almighty to stop the bloodshed. We don't want any more than we've seen here. We want Egypt to live in security and stability.
Local authorities in Sharm el-Sheikh have temporarily stopped tourist excursions, and in Hurghada the police have advised tourists to remain within hotel grounds. Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi is open again after a blaze destroyed the International Arrivals building, which forced it to close temporarily, causing huge delays and cancellations. One airline is demanding more than $4 million compensation for lost revenue. Investigators are still trying to work out what caused the blaze. The US government is attempting to block a merger which would create the world's biggest airline. The Justice Department says it has filed a lawsuit seeking to quash the proposed $11 billion merger between American Airlines and US Airways because it would reduce competition and push fares and fees up. And finally, plans for a transport system that would carry people between Los Angeles and San Francisco faster than the speed of sound have been proposed by the American inventor and billionaire Elon Musk. He's proposing a system where passengers would sit in capsules that would be fired down a low-pressure tube using solar energy. Proposed journey time, just 30 minutes.
That's it for now, but stay with us because Carmen will be here with the very best in armchair travel and why this might just be the most romantic few square miles of hillside in Eastern Europe. Don't go away.
And are you here to look for that special somebody?
No, we're just curious and want to see what's happening here.
How's it look?
Hi there and welcome to Online Check-In, the lowdown in travel on the web and what's up in the world of handy apps. I'm Carmen Roberts. Now, don't you hate it when you think you found a bargain flight or hotel online only to get to the final checkout page to discover you've been whacked with a load of additional fees? Well, if you want to avoid those last-minute surprises, then jump onto Feesing. It lists the hidden charges you could incur at a hotel in Las Vegas or Orlando. Who knew you'd be slugged an $18 a day resort fee at the Las Vegas hotel, or $35 for that extra rollout bed? The site's still very new, so more US cities will be added in the coming months. The list of airlines is even fewer, and again, it's restricted to the US. Hopefully, this will prompt other, more international sites. You could use this kind of info in conjunction with a traditional booking aggregator like ClearTrip. It's an app and website that's just had a bit of a revamp. Check out the flight quality, layover and airport change indicators. I'd definitely be steering clear if I saw the red eye icon, or this little running man. There's more photos when you're searching for a hotel, and you can also see a popularity rating. On the whole, the site looks a lot like other aggregators, but I do like the Small World tab that shows flight, hotel, temperature and current time when you place the cursor to a location on the map. If you're heading to Asia and want the latest in trip packages, hotels, city tours and shopping, then do be sure to check out the latest e-commerce site to hit their shores. Bobobobo.com is aimed at the international luxury traveller, and you can search by destination, inspiration or experience. Overall, the site itself looks glossy and professional. But call me childish, I think Bobobobo is a rather comical name. Or maybe it's pronounced Bobo Bobo. If you can give me a heads up on pronunciation, then drop me a line. The address, as always, is fasttrack@bbc.com. Or else we've a Facebook page or a Twitter account too. The details are on the screen now. David Prentel from Sweden recently got in touch to tell us about his latest startup called Vamos. It's an app that helps you keep your ear to the ground in a destination so you'll never miss out on a festival, gig or simply finding out about the latest bar opening. Vamos aggregates public Facebook events, which of course means you have to connect Vamos to your FB account. Not something I'm so keen to do these days given Facebook's privacy issues. But it still beats sitting alone in your hotel room. The app also offers directions to the events and pictures of people who have publicly said they are attending. Everyone's trying to tap into social networking sites. After all, it's the perfect vehicle for travellers, and Roadless is just another one of those apps. It connects your Facebook, Instagram, Foursquare and Flickr accounts to a location-based search, so you can plan future trips with your social media mates, or simply map and boast about your past travels. It's a fun site, but I'm not sure how practical it really is. Well, here's another mapping tool, this time aimed at the business traveller. Middle Eastern carrier Etihad has teamed up with LinkedIn for its Mapped Out service, which allows those corporate road warriors to message new contacts, arrange meetings and see connections on a map. Tweet of the week time now, and for some, summer is well and truly upon us, and you might be hoping to find a body of water to cool down in. Well, for swimmers at Tokyo's Summerland, the wave pool has been proving a little too popular, as seen on Gadling. I'm not sure that's my idea of a relaxing day by the pool. And finally, let me leave you with something a little more scenic and, let's say, calming to watch. It's a time-lapse video of fog rolling over San Francisco. It took photographer Simon Kristen 2 years to compile this masterpiece. Enjoy, see you next time.
Carmen Roberts seeing the world from her laptop. Now, to end today's programme, we've been hearing all about a Romanian hillside which might lay claim to being one of the most romantic in the world. And it's not necessarily the lovely views that are setting hearts racing. We sent Greg Mackenzie to remote Transylvania to find out more.
Transylvania is home to some of Europe's best preserved medieval towns, featuring old Saxon architecture and cobblestone streets with pastel-coloured houses and tiny shops far away from the hustle and bustle of city life. Almost half the country's 20 million inhabitants live in rural towns and villages, much like Alba County, which once a year comes alive to host the biggest outdoor festival of its kind in Romania. The Maiden's Fair is held high up on the Gaina mountain over 2 days in July. It's a celebration which dates back to the 1700s and the days when shepherds, cattle farmers and miners used to gather on the mountaintop, where legends say they would be safe from evil spirits in order to exchange their wares.
It used to be said that there was a hen on the mountain that laid golden eggs, and lots of the children would come here to see if they could find them.
It's also said that over the years, local girls would climb to the summit of the mountain with their parents, and dressed in their finest, they would endeavour to attract a suitable husband.
It's true that 50 years ago I climbed the mountain to find a husband. We would come here in our traditional costumes. Oh yes, I was 14 and he saw me in my traditional dress and we talked. He liked me and later we got married. That was 50 years ago.
On the way up to the peak of the mountain, I meet a group of students and I'm keen to discover whether they're searching for a future husband.
We've come here because this is a very traditional folk event.
And are you here to look for that husband or the certain special somebody?
No, we're just curious and want to see what's happening here.
And you can see why many travel to the Maiden's Fair to experience these amazing views at the peak of the Gaina mountain, which is almost 1,500 metres above sea level.
Locals are selling dolls in Romanian costume, food and fresh fruit, along with arts and craft items. There are also stalls selling traditional costumes, something I was keen to try on.
Boiling hot. And this is traditional Romanian clothing. I'm not going to walk around all day in this though. So this is just for the purpose of this report. How's it look?
The region has plenty to offer if you're prepared to do some serious mileage. A drive from the capital, Bucharest, will take more than 7 hours.
This is the county with the largest number of natural reservations. We have about 800 caves, We have also large areas of dedicated especially to climbers. We have also ski slopes that attract annually a lot of tourists, especially from Eastern Europe.
There are a number of low-cost carriers that fly direct to the Romanian capital Bucharest and nearby Cluj Airport, which is the closest to this region. But isn't the main attraction of Transylvania the legend of Dracula?
We don't need those cliches. We are far more than that. We have nature. We have lots of intimate places that you don't know about that are nearly hidden.
And as the event grows, are you not worried that this event might become overpopulated with tourists?
Well, that's always a very sensitive issue, because you never know how many people you want to see within your event. From our tourism department point of view, I believe that this place has already got too many people. There should be a better control over traffic and over other districts' involvement. But needless to say, we have lots of people, and we enjoy that.
It's estimated that more than 4,000 people attended this year's Maidens Fair, which remains the biggest outdoor festival in Romania. And as we begin our descent down the mountain and the 7-hour drive back to the capital, I wonder if any modern-day hopefuls left with a fiancé, a golden egg or a hangover.
Greg Mackenzie reporting from the Maidens Fair in the picturesque setting of Alba County, Romania. Well, that's it for this week, but do stay in touch with us. If anything today has intrigued, inspired or angered you, we'd love to know. Our email address is on the screen now, and we're also on social media with Facebook, Twitter and Pinterest. And if you want any more travel inspiration, do try out our website, bbc.com/fasttrack. We've got trips on there going back months. Next week,
from an exhausting and literally decimating war to a period of political and economic isolation, Vietnam has recently emerged as a desirable destination for the discerning traveller.
But the spectre of the war still colours the worldview of Vietnam, 40 years after the Americans pulled out.
So, does the Vietnamese tourism industry need to free itself from the legacy of the war? And how does this country avoid the environmental and cultural pitfalls that tourism has meant for some of its neighbours?
On my journey, I'll be exploring the capital Hanoi, going underground to experience life in a recently unearthed wartime bunker. Then it's to Vietnam's coastal jewel, Hoi An, for a cookery masterclass and a made-to-measure shirt in less than 24 hours. And finally, I witnessed something very special indeed. New hope of survival for the endangered sea turtle.
So do try and join us for that if you can. In the meantime, from me, Fiona Foster, and the rest of the Fast Track team, enjoy your travels and bye-bye.